It has been a wave of sackings by the courts for governors and their likes across Nigeria in the past few weeks. And this time, Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State, who was, of course, seen his election overturned by the Abuja Court of Appeal. Now, delivering judgment yesterday, a three-member panel of the court led by Frida Williams Daudu held that Manasseh was not validly sponsored by the People's Democratic Party for the election.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, returning had announced Mutfwang of the PDP as the winner of the election, having scored 525,299 votes, while Netanwe Yiltwada, a candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, got 481,370 votes.
Now, while evoking Section 136 of the Electoral Act, the court ordered INEC to withdraw the certificate of return issued to Manasseh and issue a fresh certificate of return to the APC candidate. Reacting to the development, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, in a statement through his Director of Press and Public Affairs, Yang Bere, described the court ruling as a temporary setback, which will deter him from repositioning the state on the path to unity, peace, and progress. The governor stated that he will file an appeal at the Supreme Court and admonished citizens of the state and supporters of the People's Democratic Party to remain calm and assure them that his mandate will be preserved and protected. We're joined this morning from Kano State by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Magaji, Mato, Ibrahim. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us. Can you help unmute your device? We're failing to get sound from you. All right, can you hear us clearly now? Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear us?
We're struggling to hear you. Can you please unmute your device so we can have a conversation with you, Mr.
Yes, I'm with you. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Good morning. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Yeah, pretty interesting, turn of events in Plateau State. Let's quickly get your thoughts, on the reasons the election or his victory was overturned. Would you say that, of course, the courts have a strong case there?
Well, good morning to you once again. And I think I followed up with that particular judgment. And I think I followed up down to the tribunal. I think there is one important issue there that played out. And it's so unfortunate for the PDP in Plateau State because nobody is contesting the fact that they won the election. Nobody is contesting that fact. But I think the APC got them through one legal issue, which they slept over and they never knew that it was going to boomerang. There was an order given by the Plateau State High Court that they should go and do their do their convention, because there was a convention that was done which was challenged intra-party. And they were asked by the order of court, go back, look, the convention was nullified, and they were asked to go and conduct fresh conventions at the various levels, ranging from the ward, local government to the state level. Unfortunately, they refused to respect that order of court, and they decided, oh, this business is our business. It's an intra-party issue. We are all PDP. We don't intend to go and do the conventions that we did. Were okay with it, damning the judgment of the court, which has not been challenged. Now, I think this was what the APC candidates relied on to say, okay, even though I have lost the election, but the governor himself is not a product of lawful convention. By implication, relying on Section 134 of the Electoral Act 2022, that he was not qualified as at the time he contested the election and won. And I think this is one leg that was held upon by the tribunal and even the Court of Appeal.
So let's talk about,
the court will not be wrong, yes.
Okay, I wanted to ask you if this should be a pre-election matter. We know that the tribunal here has said it is both a pre-election and a post-election matter. But I want to find out what your take is on this, and who really should bear the blame in this scenario, seeing as his eligibility, not his eligibility, his winning the election is not in doubt. shouldn't the blame be on INEC for not maybe doing its due diligence and ensuring that the candidates presented before it was duly qualified to contest the elections?
Okay, let me take the questions bit by bit, starting with the issue of pre-election, whether this issue should be likened to pre-election matters. Unfortunately, it is not going to be so in law, because the difference between issue of pre-election and then post-election issue at the tribunal is the fact that there was a finding of court. Now, assuming the matter didn't go to court, members of the PDP did not take the matter to court, and there was no judgment, we can simply say, oh, the tribunal has no right to inquire into the issue of validity of membership or nomination. But in this case, there was a valid court judgment to say this convention that produced you as the candidate, governorship candidate of PDP to Plateau State is flawed, and we therefore nullify it. Now, having nullified that, it means that ab initio, or let me say from the beginning, there was no any valid nomination. Because there was no valid nomination right from time, and it has been so challenged and found by a competent court of law, that means whatever you place on it remains a nullity itself, because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So because of that, it cannot be likened as pre-election. Whatever the judgment, whatever the outcome of that judgment of court is, ought to have been obeyed. The simple thing they would have done was to quickly come back, reorganize themselves, and then have election, conduct fresh conventions, reproduce the same candidate of their choice. That would have solved the problem. But you see, when they came to court now, their defense was, after all, this is an intra-party issue. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to conduct. So because of that, how can APC come in to complain? And that was the argument of the PDP, the respondents in that matter. That is an intra-party issue. Nobody, the APC has no law cause to come and challenge it. But the court now say, no, you can't sit down there after violating court order. And then you are now saying that it's an intra-party issue. Now, if the court agrees that it's an intra-party issue, the political party has choice to obey court order and has choice not to obey court order, so long as it is an in-house issue. I think they will be enthroning illegality. So it's wrong, and I think they got it wrong, or they were ill-advised. So it cannot be a pre-election issue, because there was no valid nomination right from the beginning. So it's easier for anybody to go to court, to go to the tribunal and say, look, this man that contested with me and even won, he was not a valid product, and he was not a product of valid convention. The convention that produced him as a candidate has been nullified, and it has stood so up to now. There is no challenge on that judgment, and that judgment has not been set aside. So right from the beginning, the PDP had no candidate. It's so bad, it's so unfortunate, but I think we have to learn some of these mistakes the hard way. Judgment of courts, orders of court are meant to be obeyed. Yeah. So coming back to the issue of whether it's the fault of PDP or INEC, don't forget, the organization of conventions is purely the responsibility of political party. Now, INEC comes in as a watchdog to ensure that you do the right thing. But when you conduct your conventions, the only duty of INEC is to receive those candidates you present to it. INEC is not a court of law. INEC cannot say, oh, we will not receive your candidate. If INEC does so, then INEC will be accused of becoming partisan. If you just nominate anybody and you present it to INEC, the only duty of INEC is to receive those lists of your candidate. Now, what follows as to the issue of challenge, as to the issue of incompetency, this should be raised by parties or people who are interested, not INEC.
Yeah, well, it almost feels like it's a similar situation in Kano State. There's also the argument that Abba Yusuf was not a member of the NNPP as at the time of the election, which almost sounds similar to what's going on in Plateau State. So, would those who are arguing that the APC is taking advantage of these loopholes by the PDP and other, opposition parties taking advantage of it along with the courts to, of course, give more APC governors victory. Will those people with that argument, be making some sense? Or is this just showing, carelessness? Just like in Kano State, now we're also seeing the same thing in Plateau State.
Okay, so incidentally, that I am from Kano, and at least I have paid attention very closely to all the happenings in the political terrain in Kano State. There is the facts, because cases are treated on the basis of their facts, with all honesty. The fact of the situation in Kano is quite different from that of Plateau. Now, in Kano, I am aware that there was never any court judgment pronouncing His Excellency Abba Yusuf, the executive governor of Kano State, as an invalid candidate of NNPP. I'm not aware of any such judgment. So, to the extent that his membership was never challenged by his co-contestant to the nomination at the pre-election stage, the tribunal, with all due respect, as far as my understanding of the law is concerned, cannot condescend to arrogate itself the jurisdiction to inquire into membership, which ordinarily should have been an issue that would have been raised intra-party. So just mark the difference. In the case of PDP, there was a challenge to the competency of the convention that produced Mutfwang, His Excellency, as a candidate for PDP. In the case of Kano, there was no such contention from the beginning. So it suffices that NNPP as a party decided to say, Yusuf Abba is our candidate, and presented the same candidate to INEC to say that this is our candidate. Now, if that has been done, I do not think anybody from outside NNPP, as the case is now, will validly or competently come before the tribunal and say, oh, he was not even a member of NNPP. How do you know? You are not a member of NNPP. And the NNPP has presented him as a candidate to INEC. NNPP is not complaining that Abba is not our candidate or we don't know him. So that is the difference. Because assuming the members of NNPP who were aggrieved with his membership and nomination had gone to court, in this case, based on the current electoral act, the Federal High Court, to challenge his candidature, to say, oh, I contested the primary elections with him, and he was not even a valid member because his name is not in the roll of members in the NNPP. And then they are able to obtain judgment. Courts validated their position to say, yes, it is true, Abba has not proven his membership position as far as NNPP register is concerned. Now, if that has been done, it can be as easy as the case of Plateau to say, oh, he was not a member, and there was a court judgment invalidating his membership. So what NNPP would have done in Kano was to quickly rush and get another candidate and present to INEC instead of him. But there was no such challenge. So it's too late in the day, with all due respect to both the tribunal and the Court of Appeal, it's too late in the day to now assume that position of the Federal High Court. Because even if the finding is correct, but because there was no jurisdiction for the two courts to do that, then whatever finding they have done, no matter how beautiful it looks in the eyes of the law, is still wrong. Because the position of the law is you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. There was no proper challenge, and the forum for the challenge of membership should have been the Federal High Court. Just like in the case of Plateau, where members of the political party of PDP went to court to challenge the convention that produced that particular candidate, and the court upheld their position. Now, but they played a deaf ear to the whole thing by damning the judgment of the court and proceeded with those candidates. That is what landed them into this. Not too more, not too less. Honestly, if you look at it, nobody, even the members, the APC that went to tribunal did not challenge the return. What they are challenging is the qualification.
So what would you say to those who refer to this as a judicial heist? They have referred to this as a heist of the will of the people. Some have referred to it as judicial rascality. You know, the arguments preferred by the different parties. Of course, in this case, and I'm going, of course, back to Jos. I did read up an article where someone basically referred to this as the judiciary being a coffin of democracy. So what would you say to those who argue that this is the position of the judiciary, especially because they would say that the court is speaking from both ends of its mouth, that there are as many judgments that are affirming that the Congress did hold in 2020 as there are many judgments saying that the Congress did not hold. So how would you react to that?
Now, I respect their opinions, I respect their views, but you see, some of us who have this legal background always run away from making uncontextualized comments on issues that are in the public domain. If you ask me to comment about a particular matter, and I'm not aware of the facts of that matter, it will be foolhardy of me to give an opinion over that issue. And it will be misleading to the public to give an opinion over that issue. Because for you to be able to appreciate legal argument, you must be fully seized of the facts, and then you must also know a bit of the law, that you marry the facts to the law before you come to a conclusion. So I have run away from making comments over issues that I know I'm not fully seized of their existence. So for those who always run to the public to castigate or make unfounded findings about the attitude of judges in Nigeria, they may not be wrong altogether, but at the same time they will be wrong. Because if you look at it now, so many people will think, oh, what played out in Plateau what played out in Kano is the same thing that played out in Plateau. Until now, that I made mention of this issue of the tendency of a judgment of court, which PDP refused to obey, that caused them this loss which they are suffering from now. You will not appreciate the fact, because once you just sit down, you think, oh, all cases are the same. No, they are not the same. They are not the same. The facts, they may look similar, but the facts and circumstances might not be the same. And so it is the facts of a case that leads to the application of the law, deserving of its position. So for those people rushing to make comments like that, I try to draw their attention to the reality of life, to run away from making comments when you are not fully seized of facts, because that amounts to misleading, that amounts to unfounded allegations. But at the same time, I am not saying they are 100% wrong. Especially, you make mention of contradicting judgments and decisions of the court. We find them, we see them, and it's unfortunate, that we're not able to run a legal system in Nigeria with certainty, that you can sit down as a lawyer and tell your clients that, no, this is this, A is this, B is this, and when you go to court, the same thing plays out. You cannot do so because you are not sure what the exact position of the law is. To that extent, I think, with due respect to all to the judiciary, honestly speaking, there is need for them to sit down and think very well. Maybe because of the size of the country, and then the multiplicity of the courts, and then multiplicity of the personnel that man the courts with their different backgrounds, different understanding in life, different appreciation of the law. And that is why we have the apex courts. The intention is whatever mess that is committed at the lower level and the center level, the apex court is there to put things right. So it behoves on my lords, the justices of the Supreme Court, to look at some of these judgments and then try to take a position so that in Nigeria we'll be able to have a steady legal system. Just yesterday I was discussing with a colleague, a senior advocate of Nigeria, on phone, and I told him, I said, look, if we continue this way, even those university teachers in law faculties in Nigeria will find it hard to teach. Because what will you teach if you say this is the law, and in another breath you are saying the opposite as the position of the law? Are you not confusing the students? So we have to look at it. Some of us take advantage of these contradictions here and there, and then we think all is well because we're smiling home with our pockets full of monies, and we think it's all about that. We don't think of the repercussion that awaits the generations that are coming up and the generation yet on board.
And arguably,
so honest,
Mr. Ibrahim, I just wanted to chip in that arguably we probably have seen it, on the worst level with the 2023 elections.
I agree with you, but you see, I may have to deviate slightly. The reason I'm saying so is that, again, this issue of contradiction has been in existence. So many things could be the reason. Some of us lawyers are the center point contributors of some of these contradictions. Because you see, some of us don't agree, no matter the level of no matter the bad case of your client, you fight and fight until your position is taken. These judges are human beings. I was just in court 2 weeks ago in Lagos in the Court of Appeal, and my Lord presided, Honorable Justice Bolaji. She said, look, when she was growing up as a young lawyer going to court, she was just wondering, these judges, are they gods? Because the counsel for the plaintiff will stand and make argument, convincing argument. When he finishes, the counsel for the defendant will also stand and make a very convincing argument. So she was just wondering in her mind, how will she take a position? How will the judges take position in this? Now, if you go to court, you will see. So we, the lawyers, we are also not helping matters, because ordinarily as advocates, that's why we are advocates. We are not business men and women in the market that whether our goods are good or not, when we have sweet mouth, we can sell. We should expect that we have responsibility to the society. And what is that responsibility? To tell the society the truth. If a client comes to you with a bad case, I mean, you stand a better position to tell the client, look, sir, this election, when you look at it the way it is now, you have really lost and you don't have grounds. But instead of doing this honorably, and you respect yourself, you respect the profession, you respect the judiciary, no, you ask the client, we can make wonders, we can do wonders. Some lawyers even condescend to following, to fabricate documents to ensure that their client wins case at all costs. So you see, and when you go with some of these fake documents, forged documents before their lordships are human beings. And they have no right to go beyond what are presented to them, unless and until the other side is able to dislodge whatever the plan is. My laws are bound to accept any acceptable and admissible evidence before them. So to this extent, I know in 2023, even though INEC has caused a lot of problems that have led to the massive number of cases in our court today, post-election, but I think there is even a little bit sanity this 2023, in my own opinion. Why I'm saying so is that if you look at it, the president of the Court of Appeal decided to narrow down the Court of Appeal sittings to only Abuja and Lagos, which means all 19 northern states, all appeals from the 19 northern states will go to Abuja. All appeals from the 17 southern states will go to Lagos. Now, we have seen a situation, at least in the few matters I have participated, we have seen the Court of Appeal at least taking a position to some extent. So if you look at, I'm not saying there are no conflicting judgments, but if you look at the judgments which are in accord, are far more in number than the judgments which probably must have contradicted. In fact, there are very few. I have seen one or two here and there. And like people are likely going to even say this Plateau and Kano, they are the same, or even some will argue that I think APC is out to collect all the.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems like.
System and the rest.
That would be the layman's argument across Nigeria,
yes.
To some extent.
Yes.
People are mocking the PDP and mocking even Labour Party and the likes. Olive?
Yes,
Yes.
I wanted to highlight something that you've said there, talking about the desperation of some lawyers to want their clients to win their case, who would go ahead, go as far as forging documents, and these documents were presented before our Lordship. And unfortunately, the judges cannot decide what is real and what is fake. In that moment, they're working with what is presented before them. In the area of sanitizing the legal profession, how do we ensure that we prevent incidences like this from happening? Have you seen cases where lawyers who have done this have been brought before the court? Have they been, made to face the impact of law? Because what they're doing is forgery. It's perjuries, lying on the oath. So would you say that there have been cases where this has happened, that you've seen that lawyers have been made to answer for this, wrongful action?
Yes, so many of those cases. And like in the NBA, we have a standing committee in the NBA that we call the disciplinary committee. That committee is serving with the responsibility of checkmating the conduct of lawyers. It's a profession that is built on nobility, and anything that would temper with the nobility of the profession is highly frowned at. And there are instances, even senior advocates of Nigeria, that have been brought to book on some of this misconduct. So he's there, but they are not like police to go fishing the culprits. The matter must come before them. And the persons that bring the matter before them must also be ready to come and defend the matter. In most cases, you are asked to even, because it's an allegation, in order to run away from giving the public the opportunity to go into wild allegations and unnecessary allegations, you are expected to come under oath also. Whatever allegations you have against the conduct of a lawyer, you are expected to come under oath, which means you have to make the complaint by way of filing an affidavit, so that you will not be misleading the public. And you see, most people are probably not ready to do so if there are such instances, because at times you may know an aspect, you may not be able to know an aspect. If you ask most people in Nigeria, they'll tell you elections are rigged, votes are being bought, and the rest. But you see, the hardest thing now is as easy as you saying this. But you know where you start sweating? When they ask you, come and prove it. That proof is a serious issue. So maybe most people are running away from that because of it. So if there are lawyers who are doing that, of course, the NBA has a disciplinary committee. It's a standing committee.
Yeah, but another thing is, I don't know. So because of how difficult it is to prove, like you've said now, people might make all these claims about ballot box, stuffing, about result sheets, falsifications and the likes. But it's very, very difficult to prove. So do you think that that's also a thing that must be fixed in the whole idea of our electioneering process, where you can actually see that there were a lot of issues with the elections, but when you get to court, the technicalities that you have to bypass and you have to jump and the hurdles here and there just to prove something that is actually very obvious. Do you think that's a challenge with our legal system that we need to figure out ways to fix? And then also just add, what you expect next from Governor Mutfwang.
A very big challenge. A very big challenge. And especially so with the issue of electoral matters. Because as it is, I have said it, I've even had the opportunity of speaking with some lawmakers. I've told them, I said, when you are drafting this act, you are drafting it because you thought you will remain there forever. So you didn't want to give any petitioner with good grounds to come to the National Assembly or reclaim his mandate. Because when you are drafting the Electoral Act, to my mind, I said it, sometimes I say it jokingly, I say, you are doing this because to your mind, you believe I am here, I don't want anybody to snatch my mandate. So let's do the law so tight in such a way that it will make it difficult for an outsider to come in. So it was with that mindset they enacted most of these laws. So if you look at it, it's hard for somebody to prove his petition in Nigeria. So the only ground in most cases is if the other party didn't do its homework well, it gives opportunity. Like in the case of Plateau, to be honest, it's also something very simple. A member from the PDP went to challenge the convention. And because they know we have nullified this convention, go and conduct another one. What does it take the state, the PDP at that time, to just do it in one day and say, okay, we are still bringing back the same candidate as our choice. We have done it, we have complied with the court order. But that was not done. So, but just a deviation from the main point. So the thing is, the onus of proof, we call it burden of proof, is so heavy because most of those issues that you even listed, you even cited as example, ballot stuffing and the rest, these are criminal allegations. And because they are criminal allegations, they are not in any way less, the burden of proof is not in any way lesser simply because it is a political matter. So you are faced with challenge of having to call this, call this, call that, call this, call that, going from one ballot box to another. So you discover that to prove such allegations is always very difficult, even though it's true. All of us know in Nigeria that politicians buy votes. All of us know in Nigeria that there are ballot box snatching. All of us know in Nigeria that there is thuggery. Everybody knows all this. These are for fact. But if you ask me that no, come and prove it. I am telling you the truth. The requirement of the proof in law is such that I will end up just making mockery of myself, or at the end of the day, also giving the other party the person opportunity to even take on me for that.
Please permit me to interject at this point. If you accuse
somebody wrongly and you're unable to prove, the person can go to court and say, "You have just lied on my name. I'm asking for damages before the court of law."
Please permit me to interject at this point, because we've run out of time. But I want to hear your thoughts on this as quickly as possible, maybe 30 seconds or less. There's been some dust that has been raised because of the list that has been released by the FJC about 22 judges who have been nominated. And I'm just going to read out, basically what they're saying is that some of the judges who have more experience some of the judges whose names did not appear on the shortlist have now taken over those who should have had more experience. They've become priority all of a sudden when they weren't on the shortlist. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been accused of politicizing the nomination of judges. They've been accused, of the nomination process being largely politicized. And I want to find out what your take is on that as quickly as possible.
It's a normal thing in Nigeria. This is not the first time we're hearing this, and this is not the first, and it will not be the last. So they are not wrong if they say so. That's the truth. We have seen cases in Nigeria where qualified candidates are not being given the opportunity. You must know that, you must know this, you must know this person, you must know that person in this position. They are not wrong if they say so. They are not wrong, and that is even what is destroying the legal system in Nigeria. If somebody is not qualified, but because he is close to this person, close to that person, or he has done one favor to you or the other, and you want to also replicate the kind gesture, and then you just bring him without considering his status, his position, his even appreciation of the law, his in-depth knowledge of the law. This is what is killing the system in this country. So I may not join them to say it's true, but they have their basis for saying so, and they may not be wrong. They may not be wrong. It's a serious problem in Nigeria, and until our leaders begin to understand some of these things, at times we are so short-sighted. We think of now, and we think of only ourselves, and that is what is landing us into problem. When you are making an appointment, remember, today you are the one making the appointment. Tomorrow is another person that will make that appointment. Appoint somebody who is qualified, so that tomorrow, if you are not there, that same person will do justice to you.
This conversation is an unending one. Magaji, Mato, Ibrahim, Leonard SAN, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to having you join us for further conversations.
I always appreciate you people. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.